A very good morning to all brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Thank you for joining us via Zoom online or Facebook Live. Today is 30th July and it is a beautiful Sunday morning here. Welcome to our weekly Sunday Pūjā and Dhamma sharing. This meaningful event is organized by Maha Satipatthana Buddhist Society and is initiated by Theravada Buddhist Council of Malaysia. Today, Sister Cheng, Sister Doris, and myself from Unison Chanting will be taking part in the Sunday Pūjā. And after the session, Brother Ghatikara Loo will be sharing a Dhamma talk based on the Samyutta Nikaya SN 51, and the topic is 4 bases of psychic power. Brothers and sisters, do stay locked in with us till the end of the session to know what is about the 4 bases of psychic power and how the powers are useful to us in gaining liberation. Without further ado, allow me to invite Sister Cheng to lead us in the Sunday Pūjā by reading the meaning of the offerings. Sister Cheng, please be invited.
Thank you, Sister Lily. A very good morning to all the brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Let us now compose our mind and reflect on the significance of the virtual offerings that we shall make with full respect to our blessed teacher, the Buddha. Let us begin with the offering of lights. May we offer these candles burning brightly out of deep respect and veneration to our enlightened master, the Buddha. May these lights symbolically guide us to the light of the Dhamma, which dispels the darkness of greed with the light of generosity, the gloominess of hatred with the light of love, and the darkness of ignorance with the light of wisdom through the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Offering of joss sticks and incense. May we offer these joss sticks and incense out of deep respect and veneration to our blessed master, the Buddha. May the fragrance of these joss sticks and incense be pleasing unto the gods and devas. May our good deeds be like the fragrance of these joss sticks, cultivating compassion, patience, tolerance, understanding, and love towards all living beings. Offering of water. May we offer this water to symbolize our aspiration to cultivate the virtues of calmness, clarity, and purity. Let it remind us to diligently cleanse ourselves of our spiritual defilements and delusion through the cultivation of generosity, compassion, and wisdom. Offering of flowers. These flowers too we offer out of deep respect and gratitude to our compassionate master, the Buddha. These flowers, sweet, beautiful, and choice, are clustered at the feet of our noble master. Beautiful as they are now, they will soon, with passing of time, will fade and be casted away. Reflecting thus on this very nature of unsatisfactoriness, impermanence, and soullessness, let us tread the path shown by the Buddha for the eradication of sufferings here and now. So let us proceed to pay homage to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha by saying sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang Saranang Gacchami, Dhammang Saranang Gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musawada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho viccacarana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhammasarati satta deva manusana buddho bhagavati. Swakato bhagavata dhammo sandittiko akaliko ehipassiko opanayiko paccatang veditapo vinyuhiti. Supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Ujupatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Nyāyapatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Samicipatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Yadidang cattari purisa yugani atta purisa puggala esa bhagavato sāvaka sangho. Ahuneyo pahuneyo dakineyo anjali karaniyo anuttarang punyaketang lokasati.
Vandami cetiyang sabbang sappatane supatittitang 𝓤𝓷𝓲𝓼𝓸 Maha bodhing Buddha rupang sakalang sada yassa mule nisinno sabbari wijayang aka patto sabbanyutang satta wande tang bodhipadapang ime ete maha bodhi 𝓢𝓾𝓷𝓭𝓪 pujita ahang pite namassami 𝓢𝓷𝓲𝓼𝓷 Namaste. Ghana-sarappaditena dipena tamadang sina 𝓤𝓾𝓷𝓭𝓪𝓂 sambuddhang pujayami tamunudang ganda sambara yuttena dupena hang sukandina pujaye pujaniyang tang puja bhajana muttamang adivase tuno bante paniyang parikappitang anukampang upadaya patikan hatu muttamang adivase tuno bante bojanang parikappitang anukampang upadaya patikan hatu muttamang adivase tuno bante gilana paccayang imang anukampang upadaya patikan hatu muttamang vanaganda guno petang etang kusuma santating pujayami munindassa siri pada saroruhe pujemi buddhang kusumena nena punnena metena cahotu mokkang uppang milayati yata idang me kayo tatayati vinasa bawang. Transference of merit to the devas. Akasatta ca bummata deva naga mahidika punyang tang anumoditwa cirang rakkantu loka sasanang akasatta ca bummata deva naga mahidika punyang tang anumoditwa cirang rakkantu desanang akasatta ca bummata dewa naga mahidika punyang tang anumoditwa cirang rakkantu mang paranti devo vassatu kalena sassa sampatti hetu ca pito bhavatu loko ca raja bhavatu dhammiko idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patiya kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya katang accayang kamame bante buri panya tathagata kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya katang accayang kamame dhamma sandittika akalika kayena vaca cittena Pamadena maya katang acayang kamame sangga Satipatthana anuttara.
Karaniyamattakkusalena yantang santang padang abisamecca sakko uju ca suju ca subacco ca semudu anatimani santos sakko ca subaro ca appakicco ca 𝓢𝓾𝓷𝓭𝓪𝓂 santindriyo ca nipakko ca appakappo kulesu ananugido nachakutang sama care kinci yena vinyo pare upavadeyong sukino kemino hontu sabbe satta bhavantu sukitatta ye ke cipana bhutatti tasava thava rava anavasesa digava ye mahantava majjima 𝓢𝓾𝓷𝓭𝓪𝓂 dittava yeva aditta ye chadure basanti abidure Duthava sambhave siva sabbe satta bhavantu sukitatta naparo param nikuppeta nati manyeta katta cinam kanchi biaro sana patika sanya nanya manya sedukka micceya Mathayata yang puttang ayusa eka putta manurakhe evampi sabba bhutesu manasang bhavaye aparimanang mettang ca sabba lokasming manasang bhavaye aparimanang uddang ado ca tiriyan ca asang badang aperang asapattang tittang carang nisinova sayanova yavatassa vikatamiddo etang sating aditteya brahmametang viharang idamahu dittinca anupagamma silava dasanena sampanno Kamesu vinaya gedang nahijatu kappaseyang punareti etena satcha vajjena sottite hotu sabbada etena satcha vajjena sottite hotu sabbada etena satcha vajjena sottite hotu sabbada. By this declaration of the truth, may you be safe at all times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Sister Cheng and Sister Doris, for being with us this morning. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Brother Ghatikara Loo to begin his Dhamma sharing. Brother Ghatikara Loo, please be invited.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Lily, for the kind introduction. And a very good morning, brothers and sisters in Dhamma. I'm indeed very happy this morning, that I'm able to share the Dhamma with you again. So before we begin with today's Dhamma sharing and discussion, let us put our palms in Anjali, in highest and deepest homage and respect to the Buddha, the Blessed One, whom through his great sacrifice and effort, and compassion, he has rediscovered the path to liberation, and that has enabled us to practice the true Dhamma. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay. Okay, this morning for the Dhamma session, sharing session, I've actually selected a topic which is extracted, based on this Samyutta Nikaya, the connected discourses of the Buddha, and this is actually from SN 51. And this Samyutta Nikaya actually pertains to the a very interesting topic, which is actually known as the 4 bases of psychic power. Okay. So before I begin with the Dhamma sharing this morning, perhaps I could actually pose a question to everyone, in terms of psychic power, or in Pali, what is known as abhinya. This psychic power, of course, is something that is actually fascinated, everyone, Buddhists and non-Buddhists alike. So maybe I could start off by just asking a question to you. How many of you actually are fascinated by, psychic power? The fact that somebody has, spiritual powers or psychic powers. For example, somebody who's able to, walk through a solid wall, as though the wall was actually was actually non-solid. Somebody could just walk through the wall, or somebody could just dive into the earth, and actually and then fly again, from the earth, like as though the ground was not solid, like as though it was just made of liquid, just a seemingly solid surface, like someone could just dive into it, and just emerge from the solid floor. And how about the fact that someone could actually multiply himself, into many different forms, from one body, he's able to multiply himself into millions, or even many bodies, what we call, the mind-made body, and how about the fact that someone could actually walk on water, for example, like a lake, somebody could just walk on lake, without even sinking into the lake, like as though the lake was actually made of solid, So it's actually quite amazing, right? Quite remarkable, that actually someone actually possesses this psychic power, And this person, if he has a psychic power, he's able to fly into the sky like a bird, And he doesn't even have to, buy any airplane tickets. He could just fly, anywhere he wants, to anywhere in the world, without having to, take a plane. And how about the fact that this somebody who is able to hear what other beings in other realms are actually speaking, like for example, he's able to listen to what the devas are speaking, or even other spirits, they're able to hear what they're listening, or even in the human realm, somebody who lives very, very far away, he's able to hear what this person has just said, and how about the psychic power where this person is able to read somebody's mind, he's able to encompass his mind onto another person's mind, and he's able to actually read the person's mind, what he's thinking, whether there's actually greed, hatred, delusion in his mind. He's able to see that very clearly, and he's also able to recollect his past lives, not just one or two, thousands and millions of lives, and he's able to recollect them in such vivid details, down to the fact that, how his life was, how he actually lived his life, how the pains and the pleasure he had, and what was the cause of his death, and the food that he took, every single the minutest detail he was able to recollect, and he's able to see how other beings other than himself, he's able to see other beings, how other beings actually pass, from one realm to another, depending on the deeds that he has done, whether it's wholesome deed or unwholesome deed, all these produce a corresponding results in terms of whether the results are favorable or non-favorable, whether he's beautiful, ugly, rich or poor, in terrible or miserable conditions, or in very happy destinations. All these, are actually derive from the deeds that he has done, by body, speech, and mind. He's able to see that very clearly. So all these are actually quite remarkable and wonderful powers that one possesses. So I'm sure, many of you, when you hear such psychic powers, you feel, very inspired, and, very awestruck, right? Oh, such a person has such wonderful psychic powers. And especially when we hear of a monk or a renunciant, or even an ascetic, it can be a Indian Swami, like Sai Baba, when we hear that, they have such psychic powers, he's able to, for example, by just, you see that his hand is, his palm is empty. Suddenly, then you see when he opens his palm, then flowers actually emerge from his palm, Okay, so you'll be awestruck, right? That such wonderful psychic powers, So most of us are actually awestruck, And then this, of course, begs the next question, like whether these psychic powers are actually essential, for us to, or are they actually, or should I put it, do they actually help us in our journey to liberation? Do these psychic powers help us or not? So I find this question very interesting, because personally, I've actually heard comments made even by monastics, some schools. I remember there was this Michi who told me, that you shouldn't actually be practicing samatha, because samatha only leads to psychic powers, and psychic powers is a total waste of time, and it doesn't help you at all, to in your spiritual journey. And in fact, it is actually a hindrance, to your spiritual journey, because you spend time, developing this psychic powers by doing samatha. You should actually focus and concentrate on vipassana. So this statement actually made me ponder, whether it is really true, and it actually serve, as a motivation for me to open up the suttas, and check for myself whether this is actually what the Buddha says, So I find that this psychic power, has actually been, in a way, disparaged, and then denigrated by some Buddhist schools, especially some Buddhist traditions that emphasize vipassana and de-emphasize samatha, So, and usually one of the arguments that they put forth is that, psychic powers are developed by samatha, and samatha is of no use because it only leads you to rebirth in the Brahma realm. You have these psychic powers, and so what? It doesn't actually help you in any way, So, this prompted me, to actually open the suttas, and check, whether this is actually what the Buddha says. So, let's pose this question to the Buddha, and let the Buddha speak for himself, So, for today's Dhamma sharing, first of all, let me just share the screen. Okay, let me just share the screen to share some suttas with you. Okay. Okay, firstly, I'd just like to discuss with you, to discuss this topic on psychic powers. I'd like to first of all draw your attention to this numerical discourses, the Anguttara Nikaya, which is 10.97. This sutta is actually entitled with Upali, and this sutta is about worthy of offerings dedicated to the Devas. So in this sutta, the Buddha is actually he's actually telling the monks. He says, the Buddha says, a monk, with 10 qualities is worthy of offerings dedicated to the Devas, worthy of hospitality, worthy of religious donations, veneration with, in Anjali, and there's a supreme field of merits for the world. The Buddha is saying, what must, monks, what 10 qualities do monks possess that, they're actually worthy of our veneration, So here, the Buddha, of course, first of all, starts by saying if the monk, is restrained in the Patimokkha, which is the monastic code, the 227 precepts in the monastic code, and also, of course, the Vinaya, which has got thousands and thousands of, rules, but the Buddha says here, restrained, in the Vinaya, in the monastic code. And secondly, this monk is very learned, he actually studies the Dhamma very well. He remembers, and he actually commits it to memory, what he has learned, in terms of Dhamma. And thirdly, this monk has got good friends, companions and associates, and fourthly, this monk actually has right view, he has actually got this right view, possession of right, he has developed, right view, and next, you see the next one, the Buddha says here, this monk actually wields many kinds of psychic power, you know. See, in terms of the fifth quality, the Buddha has actually mentioned, expressly stated that the importance of psychic power, you know. He says that this monk is able to multiply themselves, you know, becoming one again, appearing, disappearing, going unimpeded through a wall, like as you're going through, you know, something very soft, even though it's a solid wall, he's able to just go through it. He's able to travel, you know, go through a mountain as though it's space, you know, and diving in and out of earth, as if it were water, you know. And then this monk is able to walk on water as if it were earth, you know. And this monk is able to fly across, cross-legged through the sun like a bird, you know. And on top of that, he's able to touch and stroke the hand, with his hand, the sun and the moon, you know. You know, so mighty and powerful, they control the body as far as the Brahma realm. Means this monk is able to travel, you know, all the way to the Brahma realm, you know, whether with his real body or whether it's an astral body, right? He's able to travel to the Brahma realm, you know, as far as the Brahma realm, you know, and with this clairaudience, you know, and this psychic power, he's able to hear, you know, both kinds of sound, you know, human and divine, you know, whether near or far, you know, he's able to hear what the devas are actually speaking, you know, and of course, he's able to read the minds of others, and they can recollect many kinds of past lives, you know, thousands of past lives with such vivid and minutest details that he's able to recollect, you know, many of his past lives, thousands and thousands of past lives, and this psychic power is so superhuman that they're able to see how sentient beings pass away and reborn, whether it's inferior or superior according to the deeds that he has done, whether it's body, speech, and mind. See, the Buddha here mentions, you know, the Buddha has actually, in a way, highlighted and focused the quality that's possessed by this monk, you know, because he has got wonderful and superhuman psychic powers that he's worthy of offering, you know, and because, you know, he has developed his psychic powers, you know, and you know, coupled with wisdom, this monk has realized the undefiled liberation of mind and liberation by wisdom, you know, which means the 𝓢𝓾𝓷𝓭𝓪𝓂 𝓟𝓾𝓷𝓷, you know, the one I actually mentioned last time about the both ways liberated. So this monk who has developed his psychic powers, he's actually both way liberated by mind and liberated, you know, liberated of mind and liberated by wisdom, you know, and they live having realized with their own wisdom the ending of defilements, and he has reached Nibbana, you know. So if the monk, you know, possesses these 10 qualities, you know, he is worthy of offerings, just like worthy of offerings dedicated to the devas, you know. So here the Buddha has actually spotlighted the importance of psychic powers, of developing psychic powers. So here we see this is actually one very important piece of evidence that psychic power is not something that is a hindrance to our spiritual development. In fact, it is something essential, you know, and something important and something pivotal, you know, for us to actually develop, you know, to develop insight and wisdom. And next, there's another sutta here which is also extracted from S151.22. The sutta is actually called the Iron Ball. Here, there's a very interesting conversation between Venerable Ananda and the Buddha. You know, here the Venerable Ananda actually one day he went up to the Buddha, you know, and he sat down to one side and asked the Buddha, you know, he said, Bhante, do you have personal experience of going to the Brahma realm by psychic power with a mind-made body? You know, means the body that's actually not the real body of the Buddha, but it's a mind-made body of the Buddha, or what we call the astral body, you know. And the Buddha says, yes, I do, Ananda, you know. And then the one Venerable Ananda says, but do you have a personal experience of traveling to Brahma realm by psychic power with this body made up of the 4 primary elements? Which means the Venerable Ananda is asking the Buddha whether the Buddha actually has traveled to the Brahma realm using his actual physical body, you know. And the Buddha says, yes, I do have personal experience, you know. Ananda, and the Venerable Ananda says, it's incredible and amazing, you know, and remarkable that the Buddha is capable of going to the Brahma realm by psychic power with a mind-made body, you know. The Buddha is able to will his mind to make a body just like himself, and he travels to the Brahma realm, you know, and that he has personal experience of going to the Brahma realm by psychic power, you know. So then the Buddha says, Ananda, you know, the blessed one, is indeed incredible and has incredible qualities. That's why it's the range of the Buddha is unfathomable. You can never actually fathom the range of the Buddha's power, and they're amazing and have amazing qualities. So you can see here, the Buddha also has actually amazing, psychic powers. As we can see, he travels to the Brahma realm using, his astral body, and the Buddha, actually, in fact, he actually, yeah, and he actually, highlights the importance of psychic power. Again, you can see next one, the Samyutta Nikaya chapter 1, you see, we can see the Buddha actually also ascribes the importance of psychic power, where he actually highlights in terms of the foremost among his monks. He says, the Buddha says in this AN chapter 1, he says that the foremost of monk disciple in seniority, of course, is 𝓤𝓷𝓲𝓷𝓷, because 𝓤𝓷𝓲𝓷 is the one who actually was the first monk who attained Satipatthana, right? So you see, the Buddha is actually, describing who in amongst his disciples is foremost in terms of qualities. Means foremost means is the best, the foremost. And of course, the Buddha says with the one who is foremost in wisdom is actually 𝓤𝓷𝓲𝓼𝓷 Sariputta. And you see here, the monk who is foremost with psychic power, with abhinya, is Maha 𝓤𝓷𝓼𝓷𝓪. We all know that Maha 𝓤𝓷𝓼𝓷𝓪, is the foremost in psychic power. So we see here, the Buddha also ascribes importance to psychic power. And even in terms of the bhikkhunis, the Buddha also actually ascribes, the foremost among the bhikkhunis. And of course, the Buddha starts by saying the foremost, of the bhikkhuni with great wisdom is 𝓤𝓷𝓲𝓪, and the foremost of the bhikkhuni with psychic power is 𝑢palavana. So we can see here, again, the Buddha actually says, highlights in terms of who amongst the the disciples, who is actually foremost in psychic power. And the next sutta also, we can find not just Buddha and Venerable Maha 𝓤𝓷𝓼𝓪, even other monks who are junior monks also have got psychic power as well. You can see from SN 41.4, this sutta is actually about citta, and it's about this junior monk called Mahaka, and at this time, this sutta was actually about citta, the householder. The citta is the layman, right? And this citta, is the foremost, in terms of as an example, of a layman. The Buddha always ascribes, always has praises for citta. And citta actually is somebody who supports the monks supports a monk very assiduously, and in this sutta, this citta, he actually invited the monks for dana, and this, of course, this sutta actually describes this citta actually served the monks with a lot of this delicious food, milk rice made of ghee. After the dana itself, then the monks actually left, and went back to the monastery. And during the journey itself, when these monks were going back to the monastery, the heat was really, really hot. The heat was sweltering, and the senior monks were sweating, and profusely because of the heat. And you see the one I highlighted here. Now at that time, this Venerable Mahaka, was the most junior monk in the Sangha. Then this Venerable Mahaka actually tell the senior monk, he said, wouldn't it be nice, Bantes, if a cool wind blew, a cloud canopy formed, a gentle rain drizzled down, because of this so hot, would it be nice if there was cool breeze blowing at us, if there was a cloud that covers us over the sky, and then there's a gentle breeze, a gentle rain, like a drizzle that actually comes down from the heaven, to make us cooler, to cool us down, especially during this hot weather, right? Then the senior monk said, yes, indeed, you'll be nice, Then you see what happens. This Venerable Mahaka used his psychic power to will that cool wind to blow, and this cloud canopy suddenly formed over them, and a gentle drizzle actually, rained down on them, and they became, very cooling and very nice, a very, very pleasant journey for the monks to go back to the monastery, Then this Chitta was awestruck, This Chitta said, wow, even the most junior monk in the Sangha has psychic power, So this Chitta, he was very curious. So he followed this Bhante Mahaka back to his kuti, Then this Chitta asked this Venerable Mahaka, say, Bhante, please show me a superhuman psychic power, because I'm so awestruck by this. Then this Venerable Mahaka said, well then, householder, please place your upper robe. He asked him to put his upper robe on the porch of the kuti, and then spread a handful of grass on it, put some grass over your robe. And you see, then this Venerable Mahaka entered the kuti, and he locked the door. And then you see, he used his psychic power to actually will such that he actually transformed a flame that actually shoot out through the keyhole of the door. The flame actually he actually made a flame to actually shoot out that actually went through the keyhole of the door, and it burned up the grass, but not the upper rope. It was so precise that this flame actually just shot out right through the very tiny keyhole, and just only burned the grass, but not, it didn't touch the upper rope of Chitta. So this Chitta showed his upper rope. He took out the upper rope, stood at one side, he was like checking whether it was actually burned or not. No, nothing was burned. He's like, wow, I was so shocked and awestruck, such a remarkable display of psychic power, Then of course, this Chitta, wanted to support this Mahaka, in terms of requisites. But this Mahaka, said, oh, thank you very much. But he actually left the town without returning. So can you imagine? Even the most junior monk, during the Sangha that time actually has psychic power. And you see here for the next in this Samyutta Nikaya, you see in terms of psychic power, we can see not just the Buddha Maha Moggallana, even the most junior monk actually has a psychic power. And we have seen psychic power in so many suttas. Like for example, in Yasa, the Buddha actually, made Yasa actually invisible, right? So that the father, could listen to the Dhamma, and the father became, a Sotapanna. You see, the Buddha actually displayed the psychic power. And then we have got so many examples, like this Chula Pantaka, he became, the brother scolded him because he couldn't memorize a stanza, but then he became an Arahant. Then he displayed his power, by multiplying, as an Arahant, So this psychic power is something that is actually very, very integral to the spiritual life, And we can see here from Samyutta Nikaya 51.1, here, this sutta is at the it's actually called at the Chapala shrine, And here the Buddha says, monks, when these four bases of psychic power are developed and cultivated, they lead to from going near shore to the far shore. What is the far shore? The far shore is Nibbana, right? We know from the various suttas that the Buddha always describes far shore as a simile, as a description for Nibbana. Near shore, of course, when you're still a trainer, you haven't reached the far shore yet, you're still a Putujana, or you're still a trainer, a Seka, then you are actually at the near shore. You haven't reached a far shore yet, But the Buddha says, if you actually practice these four bases, four foundations of psychic power, if you develop and cultivate it, then it leads to the far shore, which is Nibbana. Then the Buddha says, what are these four? It is when the monk develops the basis of psychic power, this abhinya, that has got immersion, means that it actually that has samadhi, that is samadhi. Samadhi here refers to the four jhanas. The psychic power that has got immersion due to enthusiasm, means you are very, very enthusiastic, it's like passionate enthusiasm, you are so enthusiastic, and coupled with active effort, And the second psychic power, you develop this psychic power that has got samadhi, due to energy, and active effort, So enthusiasm, energy. And then the third one is psychic power that has samadhi due to mental development, which means you actually develop your mind. When you watch your mind, how it reacts to the external objects, whether any lobha, dosa, moha arises in your mind, by practicing this chitta nupassana. And you also actually watch your mind in terms of the sankhara, the volitional formation that arises in response to this stimuli, external object stimuli, whether this is wholesome or unwholesome, So if it's wholesome, you try to augment it, you try to strengthen it, you try to make it stronger and fortify the wholesome state. If it's unwholesome, if it's akusala, then you actually contemplate it in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatta, look at it in terms of emptiness, in terms of non-self, and to actually release it and let go of this defilements of yes, lohbha, dosa, moha. That's how you actually develop your mind. You develop your mind, by watching your mind, by actually looking the quality of mind, whether there's actually wholesome, unwholesome, abandon, eradicate all the unwholesome states, fortify and strengthen the wholesome states. This is how you develop the mind, and this is only possible if you watch your mind. So here, the psychic power is when you actually have got this samadhi, that is due to mental development, and active effort. Active effort means the four right effort, in terms of, in terms of ensuring the unwholesome states do not arise, and then eradicate if they arise, and you actually develop the conditions for wholesome states to arise, and strengthen and fortify, once the wholesome state arise. So these are the active effort, and the last and the fourth basic of psychic power is actually samadhi due to investigation, inquiry and active effort. So in here, investigation is what? You investigate. You actually look at your mind, is it wholesome, unwholesome? If it's unwholesome, abandon it. If it's wholesome, strengthen it, and investigate in terms of what? Seeing how conditions, in your mind, arise through causes and conditions, whether it's internal, external objects, how they arise through causes and conditions, and how all the condition phenomena, whether it is internal, external, whether it is your mind, your sense basis, and also your five aggregates, and also the external objects, how they arise through causes and conditions, and also how they are dependently arisen through causality, So this is actually the investigation partner and through active effort, So when you actually see something unwholesome, then you need to contemplate, this unwholesome states that arise, by actually investigating your five aggregates, and look at all these that arise through causes and conditions and through causality, So when you develop this, then you have this psychic power, developing the basic psychic power that has this samadhi, due to investigation, So the Buddha says, when you develop these four bases of psychic power and cultivate them, these four bases of psychic power lead from the near shore to the far shore. That means they lead you to what? To nibbana, So these four bases of psychic power are so important. The basis of psychic power that has samadhi. Remember, that has samadhi, which means this psychic power actually has the four jhanas, and and due to what? Due to enthusiasm, you passionate enthusiasm, you're so keen and enthusiastic, to investigate your mind, you watch your mind, and also the external objects, and also your sense basis as well, and you actually have this basis of psychic power, that has samadhi due to what? Due to energy. Then the third one is actually what? Due to mental development, and also due to investigation, So if you have developed these four bases of psychic power, then the Buddha says, it leads you inevitably, it leads you to nibbana. So that's how important this psychic basis of psychic power is. And again, this assumption is Nikaya 51.3. The Buddha says, again, he actually stresses and highlights the importance of these four bases, four foundations of psychic power. When you develop and cultivate them, they are noble and emancipating. Means that they're liberating. Those who practice them actually are able to achieve the complete ending of suffering. Means that you're able to achieve ending of samsara, you're able to achieve nibbana by practicing these four bases of psychic power. Again, the Buddha actually highlights what are these four bases of psychic power. The base of psychic power that has got samadhi, that is due to what? Enthusiasm. You're very enthusiastic, to practice, and then you have this energy, this very a lot of you're very energetic to practice. You feel very motivated, very energetic, passionate enthusiasm, and then you also and also due to what? Due to mental that has mental development, due to mental development, this samadhi, it arises due to mental development because you watch your mind, how it reacts to the external objects through the six sense basis by looking at the five aggregates, which I explained in all my talks in detail, on how you can actually practice, how that can be practiced. And also in terms of investigation as well, how you investigate, watch your mind, whether it's wholesome, unwholesome, the volitions that whenever there's something happens to you, what is your reaction? What's your volition? Do you react in actually unwholesome ways or whether wholesome ways? And is there loba, dosa, moha? How's your mind at the moment? Is that if it's something that's unwholesome, you have to abandon it, by actually contemplating non-self, and try to actually and from there you stop clinging to it, and that's where you become dispassionate, and you do not grasp at it, you don't cling to it, and so the Buddha again highlights about these four bases, four foundations of psychic power, And again, you see here this Samyutta Nikaya 51.4. Again, the Buddha says that these four bases of psychic power lead to what? Lead to disillusionment, lead to this the nibbida and viraga, dispassion, disillusionment and dispassion, because if you actually practice this passion, enthusiasm, this energy, mental development, investigation, you are actually investigating the true nature, of all conditioned things, whether it's your mind, whether your body, your five aggregates, and also the external objects. You actually look at them in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatta, and this is also the way you have to practice the four bases of psychic power, So you practice in tandem, as you practice to develop psychic power, you're also developing wisdom, So the Buddha says if you can practice this four bases of psychic power, it leads to nibbida and viraga, and you actually it leads you to nibbana. That's how important this four bases of psychic power is. And again, you see here, from Samyutta Nikaya 51.1, the Buddha actually says, for those ascetic and Brahmins, who have partly manifested psychic power, which means that they don't have full psychic power, they have only some part of psychic power, how did they develop this? Oh, they developed this because of four bases of psychic power, again, the Buddha talks about this psychic power, that actually possesses samadhi, due to what? Enthusiasm, energy, mental development, and also investigation. You see, again, the Buddha highlights about this psychic power. Again, there is this 51.6. The Buddha says that even if a mendicant or Brahmin or ascetic, has developed the complete psychic powers, again, he also he's able to develop psychic power because of these four bases of psychic power. Okay. And then in this 51.7, you see, they say all monks in the past, present, and future, who realize this liberation by mind, liberation of mind, and liberation by wisdom, all of them realize this, because of what? Because they developed the four bases of psychic power, So can you see that the suttas, actually, it's very, very clear, very compelling evidence that this basic psychic power, is a very integral and very pivotal part of a spiritual life, and even for monks who actually achieve this liberation of mind and liberation by wisdom, means they are both ways liberated. For such monks, they actually develop this four bases of psychic power. Okay, and again, you see, there's so many evidence here. And then this S1 51.8, you see here, the Buddha says, someone, the Buddha actually describes himself. He says, you read the last line here. It's because he has developed and cultivated these four bases of psychic power that the blessed one is called the perfected one in the fully awakened Buddha. The Buddha says he has achieved Buddhahood. That means he has actually achieved perfectly self-awakened enlightenment because he has developed these four bases of psychic power. So again, this psychic power, has samadhi, due to enthusiasm, energy, mental cultivation, mental development, and investigation. You see, again and again, the Buddha actually highlights the importance, whether you are striving to be an arahant, or whether you are or whether Buddhahood, all these are achievable because of the development of these 4 bases of psychic power. Again, this 51.9, again, the Buddha actually talks about this 4 bases of psychic power. You see here, he says amongst this is the basis of psychic power that has actually samadhi, due to this enthusiasm, due to energy, due to mental development, due to inquiry, And it's because of this cultivation, that's why, this wisdom and knowledge arises in him, See here, the Buddha actually is describing that, on the night of his enlightenment, when he was actually seated under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, they actually, he was actually contemplating about these 4 bases of psychic power, So can you imagine how wonderful, how important this development of sorts 4 psychic power is, See, and then in SN 51.10, there's this interesting sutta, at the Chapala shrine. Okay, and this this sutta itself, okay, it actually describes a conversation between Buddha and Venerable Ananda, and this sutta describes it's an incident, where the Buddha actually and Venerable Ananda were actually at this shrine called the Chapala shrine, and then the Buddha actually gave this Venerable Ananda a very clear hint to invite the Buddha to live until the aeon, I mean to live until this aeon, which means the Buddha has dropped a lot of hints to Venerable Ananda to actually live until 1 aeon, for the benefit of all beings and devas, But at that time, this Ananda, his mind was actually being, in a way, was actually under the influence of Mara, and he was not able to, somehow he didn't catch the hint, and he didn't actually invite the Buddha to stay on for another eon. And because of this, Mara, took the opportunity to creep up to the Buddha, and he said, and he told the Buddha, now you have got all these disciples who are monk disciples and nun disciples and lay and female lay disciples who are actually very well practiced already, and they are well versed with the Dhamma, and it is time for you to pass into Paranibbana, Don't forget the promise you have made last time that you said when the monks, and the nuns and the Upasaka and Upasika, when they are already well learned in the Dhamma and they are already practicing well, you promise you will leave, you shouldn't stay on in the world for so long, you promise to leave, and and because of that, and because of that, the Buddha actually then gave up his lifespan, So here we find and because of that, the Buddha then gave up his lifespan, and it was time for him to pass into Paranibbana. And say 3 months from now, I'll pass into Paranibbana, And because of that, that's why the Buddha, he willingly gave up his life force and decided to pass into Paranibbana 3 months from there. So this sutta itself, you see, here you see the Buddha again in this paragraph, he again ascribes the importance of psychic power. You see, Ananda, Vaisali, Vaisali is a town in India which still exists now. Vaisali, the Buddha says Vaisali is lovely, and the Udena, Gautamaka, 7 maidens, many sons, 𝓤𝓷𝓲𝓷, and Chapala 3 shrines are all lovely. The Buddha says all these shrines are lovely. The Buddha says whoever has developed and cultivated the 4 bases of psychic power, made them a vehicle and basis, kept them up consolidated them and properly implemented them, may, if they wish, live for a proper lifespan or what's left of it. So the Buddha says, whoever who developed this 4 bases of psychic power actually, has the choice to decide whether how long he wants to live. And the Buddha says the Buddha has developed and cultivated these 4 bases of psychic power. Made them a vehicle and basis, kept them up and properly implemented. So the Buddha actually says, if he wish, he can stay for 1 eon. But in this case, because Venerable Ananda, his mind was seized by Mara, the wicked one, and somehow the Venerable Ananda didn't catch the hint. He didn't catch the drop. The Buddha dropped so many hints to him, but he didn't invite the Buddha to live for an aeon. And because of that, he gave Mara the opportunity to actually creep up to the Buddha and actually ask him to fulfill his promise. He promised me, that you live in this world once you have established the order of monks and nuns and the male and the female lay disciples. If they're well practiced and learn and know the Dhamma well, you have to leave. That's what you promised me, Mara told the Buddha. So Buddha had no choice but to actually fulfill his promise. And because of that, here, but the Buddha actually passed Parinirvana 3 months after that. But here, what we are trying to say here, the Buddha says, he says, whoever has got this psychic power, he could actually live as long as he wants. So that's how wonderful this 4 bases of 4 psychic power is. And then in this SN 51.11 again, you see the Buddha again highlights that before the Buddha's full awakening, the perfectly self-awakening, the Buddha says when he was just a bodhisattva, when he actually contemplated and meditated under the Bodhi tree, he was actually contemplating about the 4 bases of psychic power. He's actually asking, what is the reason, what's the cause for the development of this 4 bases of psychic power? Then that's how the Buddha actually came up. He actually realized, this 4 bases of psychic power, how you should practice in order for you to develop this 4 bases of psychic power that has got this basis of psychic power that possesses samadhi. Due to what? Due to enthusiasm, due to energy, due to a lot of this zeal and energy, due to what? Mental development, by watching the mind, watching the mind at all times, how it reacts to the external sense objects, and contemplating in terms of, anicca, dukkha, anatta, if it's unwholesome, and also in terms of inquiry, investigate your mind, is it wholesome, unwholesome, investigate, how everything arises through causes and conditions, and how they are actually dependently arisen through causality. So if you can actually see this and develop these 4 bases, the Buddha says you actually develop these 4 foundations of psychic power. Again, the Buddha in 51.12 says, if you develop these 4 bases of psychic power, it is very, very fruitful. Very, very fruitful. The Buddha says that if you have this develop these 4 bases of psychic power, then you are able to realize the liberation of mind and liberation by wisdom, the ubato bago vimutta, this both ways liberated, if you develop these 4 bases of psychic power. Again, you see, in 51.14, again, it demonstrates this Venerable Maha Moggallana's wonderful psychic power, because during that time, there was this group of monks, who were staying beneath this long house in this Migara's mother. Migara's mother is actually this Visakha, So these monks, they were not very restrained, they were very unmindful, very restless, and straying minds, and then didn't observe their sila well, So the Buddha says, he told Venerable Ananda, please go instill some urgency in them, and please, teach them, and strike them in awe of these monks, so that they can practice well. So this Maha Moggallana, what he did, he used his psychic power to make the long house shake and rock and tremble with nothing but just his toe. Just with using his toe, he's able to actually shake the entire long house, to make the long house shake and tremble and rock, just by using his toe alone. And then the monks were actually quite awestruck. They were quite amazed. They say, how incredible, how amazing. There's no wind, but this stilt of Longhorns, it shakes and rocks and trembles. So again, the Buddha says here, you see here, the mendicant, this Maha Moggallana has become powerful and mighty by developing these 4 bases of psychic power. Again, the Buddha actually highlights that this Maha Moggallana, is able to be so powerful because of the 4 bases of psychic power. Again, this same also 51.31, it also highlights about how powerful this Maha Moggallana is because of this 4 bases of psychic power. Okay, but in this case, this is actually the Buddha telling the monks, why this Maha Moggallana was so powerful, psychic power, because of this 4 bases of psychic power. And again, in this 51.32, the Buddha also actually highlights that the Buddha actually was so powerful and mighty. The Buddha has got such wonderful psychic powers, and we cannot fathom how wide the range of the Buddha's power is. What I just described to you just now in terms of all these, like walking on water, going through walls and all these are just examples of psychic power. But the ability of Buddha in terms of psychic power is unfathomable. We cannot imagine how wonderful the Buddha is in terms of his psychic power. I mean, in the sutta, there's so many incidents of the Buddha flying up to the Brahma world. He was able to actually pluck the flowers from the Tusita heaven, and came down and show, and so many the wonderful psychic feats that the Buddha actually has, all because of what he develops these 4 bases of psychic power. Okay. Okay, this 51.13, again, the Buddha talks about the 4 bases of psychic power, that actually is able to lead to this liberation of mind and liberation by wisdom. And here we can see here the samadhi here is what? Gain unification of mind, which means when you develop this psychic power, this psychic power actually possesses samadhi, and this samadhi is actually unification of mind, which is the 4 jhanas. And we're talking about the Sutta jhanas here, not the Visuddhimagga jhana. So it is actually not that difficult to achieve if you actually practice it well. It's not like as though you need to see the light and what, the nimitta. But here the Buddha is actually talking about the Sutta jhana. Again, this 51.15, I've just given you some extra suttas about this Brahmin Unaba. He was actually asking, what is the purpose of a spiritual life? And then Venerable Ananda actually tells this Brahmin, this Unaba, that the purpose of spiritual life is to actually give up craving and desire. And is there a path that leads to this giving up of this desire? How do you actually abandon desire? You see what the Buddha, what Venerable Ananda here says? You see, it is when the mendicant develops the 4 bases of psychic power, that there's samadhi, due to these four qualities: enthusiasm, energy, mental development, inquiry. You see, again, the Buddha actually has taught that in order for you to actually eradicate and give up and abandon craving and desire, you have to practice. You practice these 4 bases of psychic power. You develop these 4 bases of psychic power. Again, again, 51.16, you see the Buddha here says all the ascetics and Brahmins, past, present, and future, are mighty and powerful in psychic power. They have become so by developing these 4 bases of psychic power. You see, again and again, the suttas, you see, so many suttas which ascribe to this psychic power, that is so remarkable, so wonderful. So all of the so supra-normal is all of this world, but it is something that is not impossible to develop if you actually follow what the Buddha says in terms of developing this 4 bases of psychic power. Again here, again the Buddha highlights about this, how all these Brahmins they achieve various kinds of psychic power. And the Buddha again in this sutta describes all the wonderful things that this monk is able to do because of what? Because of these 4 bases of psychic power. Okay. And then here, I just want to share with you this SN 51.19, a very interesting sutta, Okay, here he says the monk is teaching the Buddha is teaching the monks. Here, in this discourse, the Buddha actually told the monks, he said, monks, I'll teach you psychic power. He's teaching the monks how to develop this psychic power. I teach you psychic power, the foundations of psychic power, the development of the psychic power, the basis of psychic power, and the practice that leads to the development of this psychic power. How do you develop this? What is the path that you should practice to develop this psychic power? First of all, the Buddha start by saying, what is psychic power? Of course, this is what I described just now, to all the wonderful things that you can do, walking on water, going through walls, going through mountains, flying like a bird, touching the moon and sky, and all this, can hear the Dewa speak, all this, and then the Buddha says, what is the basis of psychic power? The basis of psychic power means that the foundation. What is the foundation of psychic power? It's a path and practice that leads to the gaining of psychic power. This is called the foundation of psychic power. And the Buddha then goes on, how do you develop this foundation of psychic power? You develop this when you develop this psychic power that has got samadhi, which means the 4 jhanas, due to enthusiasm, energy, mental development, and investigation. And of course, there must be active effort. Means the right effort, in terms of the wholesome, unwholesome, there must be right effort for you to abandon unwholesome and to actually strengthen and fortify the wholesome, So this is actually the foundation and basis of psychic power. And what is the practice that leads to the development of this psychic power? You read this, very interesting, The path that leads to the development of the psychic power is simply this noble eightfold path, the Buddha says. And this is right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, or right samadhi. This is called the practice that leads to the development of the foundation of psychic power. The Buddha says, if you want to practice psychic power, you need to practice the noble eightfold path. This is the path, the practice that leads to development of psychic power by developing what? Developing this noble eightfold path. And if you look at it, it's actually very consistent, what the Buddha has taught, this noble eightfold path, because you see the 4 foundations of this psychic power, is what? Is actually the psychic power that has got samadhi, jhana, due to what? Due to enthusiasm, due to energy, due to mental development, and due to investigation. So to actually have mental development investigation, what must you have? You must have what? You must have actually the right effort, the right effort, and also what? Right mindfulness. Right mindfulness means what? The 4 Satipatthana, right? You need to actually watch your mind, what goes on in your mind, and you need to actually investigate as well, and to actually abandon the unwholesome and strengthen the wholesome through what? Through watching your mind, and also through contemplation of anicca, dukkha, anatta, through your 6 sense bases with regard to your 5 aggregates, So you see, it's very, very consistent, and of course, this basis also has got active effort. Active effort is right effort. So you have right effort, right mindfulness, and then all this will lead to what? Leads to the right samadhi. Because with this practice of actually watching your mind, seeing how your mind reacts to the external sense objects through the 6 sense doors by watching your 5 aggregates, and you contemplate in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatta, for unwholesome and strengthen the wholesome, all this leads to the right samadhi, And of course, this also leads to right understanding and right thought, because then you have this right understanding, right view, in the supra mundane level, by understanding anatta, the causality and dependent origination, the reason of all the sankhara, and also in terms of right thought as well. With this, you actually have loving kindness, renunciation, and also non-harming, you have thoughts of loving kindness, also right thoughts, and you also and to develop all this, what must you have? You must have what? In terms of right speech, right action, right livelihood. This is the foundation of sila, So this whole thing about the psychic power development, to develop psychic power, is nothing but back to this practicing of noble eightfold path. I actually learned this when I did research for this Dhamma talk. That I actually realized that to develop this 4 bases of psychic power, the path is actually noble eightfold path, and this it actually blends in so well with the 4 bases of psychic power, that everything falls like a jigsaw puzzle. The Dhamma that taught by the Buddha is so wonderful. it's like the path becomes so clear to you, that this is how you should practice, from this sutta itself. It's really, really wonderful. And then also, you see here, 51.20, you see, again, the Buddha, this sutta is about the analysis. Here, the Buddha actually talks about, how do you actually practice this enthusiasm, and, when this, which is the foundation of this psychic power. He says, my enthusiasm won't be too lax and too tense, it will not be too constricted internally or scattered externally, so when and the Buddha is describing how you should practice. The Buddha is going, one step in detail how you should practice this enthusiasm, this foundation of psychic power. The Buddha says your enthusiasm shouldn't be too lax. It means when you practice, sometimes you are keen, sometimes you are lazy, and you're not very consistent, and sometimes you are scattered externally, means you are actually being pulled out towards the five causes of sensual pleasure. Then your mind has got five hindrances because your mind has got this sensual pleasure, is cling to this sensual pleasure. You think about all the sense pleasure of all your five senses, and because of that, you cannot achieve this samadhi, the jhana, that you need to cultivate the psychic power, And the Buddha says you practice here continuously, as before, so after, as before, which means Buddha says you develop this with wisdom, means you see how things arise, through conditionality. It's because of this arises. It's because of that, this arises. It's because of cessation of this, that this ceases. It's because of cessation of that, this ceases, and the Buddha also says that you actually contemplate so above as below, so above, as above, so below, here I'll go into detail later, but and as by day, so by night, as by night, so by day, So the Buddha here in this sutta is very interesting because the Buddha goes one step further to tell you how you practice, because in terms of your enthusiasm, in terms of your energy, in terms of your mental development investigation, the Buddha says it shouldn't be too lax and too tense, If it's too tense, you become restless. Means you shouldn't have five hindrances. Too lax means you got sensual pleasure, sense desire, Then if it's too tense, it becomes like too tense becomes restless, And if it's scattered, externally, means your mind is scattered, is being pulled by the five causes of sensual pleasure, and you need to practice with wisdom, looking at how things arise through conditions, conditionality. From here, because of this, it happens. Because of this ceases, that ceases. And you also practice by day and by night. Means you practice continuously, with a lot of enthusiasm. You shouldn't just practice like, oh, I practice and then after that I take I don't practice anymore, But you should continue to strive, like as though you're boiling, cooking something. The heat of the flame must be there, You cannot just cook something by turning on the flame. Then after 5 minutes before the water boils, you turn off the flame again. You turn on, turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off. How are you ever going to actually boil the water? If you want to boil the water, the flame must be always there. Must always be the flame must always be there. Means must be continuous effort. Just like when the hen actually incubates the eggs. The hen must be there. Incubating and keeping the eggs warm. The hen cannot just warm the eggs for a while and then goes out, and then 2-3 days later and then come back and warm again. Then how are the eggs ever going to hatch, right? So you must have this enthusiasm, this energy. It cannot be too lax and cannot be too tense, So the Buddha says, if you actually are able to practice this way, then you are actually practicing the 4 foundations of psychic power. So you see here, the sutta is very interesting because it tells you so many things, about the path, You see, and when you practice here SN 51.21, if you practice this 4 bases of psychic power, then you're able to develop all the kinds of psychic power. And then the last part of this sutta says, if you develop this 4 bases of psychic power, you realize this liberation of mind and liberation by wisdom in this very life, and they realize it with their own insight due to ending of all the defilements, all the defilements and all the fetters and all the defilements, you're able to uproot them, So you see how wonderful this 4 bases of psychic power is. And again, the Buddha says, if you're able to develop these four basic psychic power, the Buddha says, if you develop this well and to fulfillment, one of two results can be expected. Either you can attain enlightenment in this present life, means you become an arahant in this life, or if it's not if there's something left over, means it's actually not to the level of perfection that you need to become arahant. You actually become an anagami, a non-return, if you practice these four bases of psychic power. It's from this 51.25. See how wonderful this four psychic power is. It's not just for displaying of psychic powers, but it comes with a bonus. If you practice psychic power, you also cultivate the wisdom. That is what is different between the Dhamma taught by the Buddha and also the psychic power of the external sects. The external schools, the external sects, which are actually out of the Buddha Sasana, they practice what? They practice only in terms of energy and enthusiasm. But there's no mental development and there's no investigation. So they have this psychic power, but the psychic power doesn't come with wisdom, The psychic power they have, sometimes they use a psychic power, for a lot of destructive things, Like, for example, some of these external ascetics, they have this psychic power, when they get angry with someone, they could actually burn down the whole village by using flames. Because they have psychic power, But the psychic power taught the Buddha is different. No, the four bases is not just energy and enthusiasm, It even has got mental development. Means that you have to watch your mind for any unwholesome states, and abandon them, by looking at anatta, by looking at anicca, dukkha, anatta, and also by investigating your mind, So that's why the four bases of psychic power taught by the Blessed One, the Buddha, is very, very different from the psychic power as taught by all the external teachers, not in the Buddha Sasana, So that part we need to understand. Why when you practice the four bases of psychic power, it leads you to the various stages of enlightenment. Of course, other than that, you are able to display your psychic powers as well, by going through, mountains, flying in the air like a bird, traveling to everywhere, by just flying, and then you can hear the devas talking and all this. That is the bonus, what we call the bonus. But the actual jewel in the crown is that you are able to achieve wisdom to actually uproot ignorance, and you're able to achieve the various stages of enlightenment. And again, in this SN 51.26, you see the Buddha again describes about these four bases of psychic power again. You see, there are these four psychic powers. Of course, the Buddha again talks about the same thing, about the same energy, enthusiasm, mental cultivation and investigation. You see, because of developing and cultivating these four pieces of psychic power, 7 fruits and benefits can be expected. You see how wonderful this four psychic power is. The Buddha says, what are these 7? They attain enlightenment early on in this very life. Means you're able, when you watch your mind, constantly, how you react to the 6 sense basis. When there's any lobha, dosa, moha arises, then you need to investigate them and then abandon them by investigating how they arise through causality. And that's where you see non-self, anatta, and you're able to see the anatta nature of your 5 aggregates through your 6 sense basis. This is taught by the Buddha, in all the suttas. Again and again, so if you're able to cultivate this to the level of this 4 jhanas and able to actually then look with active effort, and the Buddha says you're able to attain nibbana in this very life, you become an arahant in this very life. If there's something lacking, you attain, if not, they attain enlightenment at the time of death. Means you either become nibbana, you achieve nibbana, while you're alive, or just before the person passes away, he attains, the final parinibbana, the final nibbana. If not, if that something is lacking, he's able to end the 5 lower fetters, and they become what? They become anagami, they become they achieve the third fruition, the anagami, the non-returner, they are extinguished between one life and next. They are extinguished upon landing. They are extinguished without extra effort. They are extinguished with extra effort. They hit upstream, going to the Akarnita realm. Actually, all these 5 descriptions here. Actually, they describe the various stages of the anagami, depending on how well cultivated the anagami is. It's either this anagami, before he even lands in the pure abode, when he's in an intermediate state, he's able to attain arahantship already. But the lowest and of course the slowest of this is one that goes through all the stages in the pure abode. Because the pure abode, as you know, is actually reserved for the anagamis, the third fruition. So he actually goes through all the abode, and he goes to 𝓤𝓷𝓷𝓷 realm. So the Buddha says, if you're able to develop these 4 foundations of psychic power, it's either you become an arahant, before death, or just before death you become arahant, or you actually achieve the 5 levels of anagami. So the 7 benefits or if you practice the this 4 bases of 4 foundations of psychic power. So how wonderful is here. And of course, in this sutta itself, I just want to share with you some interesting sutta as well, 51.33 to 34. The Buddha says, if you actually cultivate these 4 bases of psychic power, then you are just like a river that actually, like Ganges River. Ganges River in India, it is a huge, humongous river. That actually flows, through 𝓢𝓾𝓷𝓭𝓪, into the Indian Ocean, right? That's why 𝓢𝓾𝓷𝓷 is actually, it means flowing, 𝓢𝓾𝓷, because of this Ganges River, So this Ganges River, he says, if you practice 4 bases of psychic power, then you are just like this Ganges River that slants and slopes and inclines to the east. You see this Ganges River, right? If it actually flows from west to east, if you know geography, it flows from west to east, and it actually flows into the Indian Ocean. So if you practice this 4 bases of psychic power, the Buddha says you are just like Ganges River, that flows to the east. And the Buddha says that what does it mean by flowing towards this east? That means you are just like a Ganges River that flows to the east, which means if you practice this 4 bases of psychic power, you are actually flowing inevitably towards nibbana, inclines to extinguishment, by flowing to nibbana. That's why the Buddha says if you practice these 4 foundations of psychic power, you're just like Ganges River that flows to the east, and you are just like this which means you are like flowing non-stop, with a fixed destination towards nibbana. So that's how wonderful these 4 bases of psychic power is. Again, in this 51.77, the Buddha says, if you are able to practice these 4 bases of psychic power, you are able to eradicate these 5 higher factors. These 5 higher factors that you must actually, the samyojana, right, the factors that you're supposed, for example, right, this like Satipatthana has uprooted the 3 lower factors, right? The Sakaya Ditti, the Silabbata Paramasa, and also the doubt, So Satipatthana has eradicated lower 3. And then for the Sakadagami, the second fruition, he's able to weaken the sensual desire and also the hatred, But the Anagami has actually eradicated the 5 lower factors, And then the Buddha says, for the anagami to become an arahant, to eradicate the 5 higher factors, how should you actually practice? Again, the Buddha says you need to practice the 4 foundations of psychic power. And what are these 5 higher factors? The desire for rebirth in the form realm means you have this desire to want to be born in the Brahma realm, and you have this desire to be born in the formless realm, those in arupa attainment, they're able to actually, they have this desire to be reborn in the formless realm. And then you have this conceit, restlessness, and ignorance. These 5 higher factors, if you want to become an arahant, you have to uproot these 5 higher factors. And the Buddha says, for you to do that, you must actually eradicate these 5 higher factors. Of course, this psychic power, is important for us to develop, to actually practice the various stages, of enlightenment. But of course, the Buddha says that if you practice these 4 psychic powers, then you actually become both ways liberated. It means a liberation by mind and liberation by wisdom. But of course, there are arahants who are liberated by wisdom alone, which means they do not have psychic powers, but nonetheless they are fully liberated. So they are actually liberated by wisdom only. They are not both ways liberated. So here in this case, if you see this sutta, is interesting from this SN 12.70 on Susima. This Venerable Susima actually asks those arahants whether they had all these psychic powers, and then they actually replied no lah. So and they actually mentioned that they are no is because they are actually liberated by wisdom. You see here, we are liberated by wisdom, friends Susima. See, we are liberated by wisdom, friends Susima. So which means these monks do not have psychic powers. They practice, they practice in a way that they are not both ways, which they do not have this liberation of mind. Means they do not actually in a way experience this arupa attainments, the kayena pusitwa, they do not actually experience this formless attainments. So in this way, they're actually liberated by wisdom only. So in this way, they do not have psychic powers, but they're liberation by wisdom. So this is just one sutta for me to just highlight that there is this difference in the arahants. Some arahants, have got psychic powers. Some arahants don't have psychic powers. Depends on the level of the in terms of the samadhi itself. Whether they actually are able to attain these arupa attainments, these formless attainments, through experiencing himself. That's where you have this liberation of mind, and liberation by wisdom, which means they're both ways liberated. Again, see another interesting sutta here. I just want to share with you also this AN 9.83. He said, monks, the Buddha says there are these 5 weaknesses when you're training. What 5? See, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and taking of alcohol, intoxicating drinks that cause negligence. These are the 5 weaknesses when you're training. And the Buddha says to give up these 5 weaknesses, these are the 5 precepts. You should develop the 4 bases of psychic power. See, the Buddha says here to actually safeguard your sila, your 5 aggregates. You have to you actually practice these 4 bases of these 4 foundations of psychic power. Again, this psychic power that has got samadhi due to energy, due to enthusiasm, due to mental development and investigation, with active effort, and if you actually look at this, it does make sense, because for you to actually safeguard your sila and to have self-restraint, what must you do? You must watch your mind, right? Before you even do something, in response to something. For example, someone says something bad about you, before you lash out in harsh speech or vulgar speech, or before you tell a lie, you must actually watch your mind first, right? What is the volition of your mind? I intend to speak this, I intend to do this, I intend to think this, right? It's watching your mind, and to be able to catch it in time, you need to develop these 4 bases of psychic power when you actually have this mental development, this enthusiasm, this energy, or this right effort. And then you must be able to watch your mind, mental development, to watch out for any akusala states that arise, and also in terms of and also investigate, how they arise through causes and conditions, so that you see the anatta nature, and then you give up, you actually abandon this volition, this intention to want to do something unwholesome, to kill, to steal, maybe to have sexual misconduct. You think carefully, should I do this or not? If I do this, what is the consequences? You think, you have mental development and you have investigation. So that's why the Buddha says to keep your 5 precepts, you must actually safeguard this practice, this 4 basis of psychic power. You see. again, of course, see, the Buddha, again, other suttas, the Buddha, keeps on emphasizing, because this is the path leading to the Nibbana and the fourth basis of spiritual power. Here, basis of psychic power, the Buddha again highlights this four bases of psychic power. If you actually do this, then you actually either become Arahant now, or at least, Anagami, And here in Book of One, the Buddha again highlights about how wonderful this psychic power is. Actually, when you look at Book of One, the Buddha says, you see 410 and 413 here. See, if a monk with just a finger snap of time develop this four bases of psychic power, you see, this monk is considered as someone who is worthy of eating the lay people's alms, and he is actually one who follows the Buddha's instructions, and he's called a monk who does not lack samadhi, even as long as a finger snap, you develop these four foundations of psychic power, see, and again, in this sutta itself, this AN 10.90 is also very interesting, because this Buddha actually asked Venerable Sariputta, when someone actually claims my defilements have ended, I have actually ended all my defilements and I become Arahant, how many powers must this monk have in order for you to claim that your defilements are ended? Okay, so you see here. See, of course, the Buddha, this Venerable Sariputta says, firstly, this monk, he actually has seen with right wisdom that all conditions are actually impermanent. Means anicca, sabbe sankhara anicca. Means all the conditioned things are all impermanent because they are non-self. And and of course, of course, the second one that says, that this monk has seen the right wisdom, and the sensual pleasure is like a bit of coals and everything. Okay, so maybe I will actually just go straight into this. That this monk, you see here the last paragraph, has developed these four right efforts and four bases of psychic power. You see. Again, the Buddha says, for one to be able to eradicate the defilements, this monk must have actually developed the four bases of psychic power. And these four bases of psychic power are actually part of the 37 Bodhipakkhiya Dhamma. You see this he has actually developed the four right efforts, four bases of psychic power, 5 faculties, 5 powers, 7 factors of awakening, and the Noble Eightfold Path. If you actually and four Satipatthana, of course, if you add up all this, it's actually 37 Bodhipakkhiya Dhamma, the 37 aids to enlightenment, So this four bases of psychic power is actually a very important component of the 37 Bodhipakkhiya Dhamma, for one to actually achieve arahantship, And of course, in AN 3.144, you see the Buddha again tells the monks, a monk who has these 3 qualities has reached the ultimate goal and the ultimate spiritual life. What is this? What are these 3? A demonstration of psychic power, a demonstration of revealing, a demonstration of instruction. Means if the monk has actually developed psychic power and able to demonstrate and this psychic power and able to demonstrate this demonstration of instruction, means he's able to teach the Dhamma, then this monk is actually considered someone who has reached the ultimate spiritual goal in the spiritual life. So you see, based on all these suttas, we can see that these 4 bases of psychic power, are actually an integral and pivotal life in part of our spiritual life. In fact, the Buddha says, in order for us to develop this, we must develop this with a lot of zeal and energy and effort, day and night. We should, watch this, and we can do this, why? Because it's actually open mindfulness, It's not just sitting cross-legged, but you can actually watch it any time of the day, You can actually watch how your mind reacts. The mental cultivation can be done anytime, if you do this open mindfulness, and you're actually able to investigate, and if you do this continuously, the Buddha says you can become an Arahant. or even an anagami, let alone become, a Sotapanna, right? So you can imagine how wonderful this 4 bases of psychic power is. And to develop this, it is not something that is like so out of this world. The Buddha says that you just need to practice what? The Noble Eightfold Path, it's as simple as practicing that, As I mentioned, the psychic power taught by the Buddha is very different from the external sects, of teachers that they teach, not based on the Buddha Dhamma, not based on, not in according with the Buddha Sasana. They only teach, but based on the psychic power that has got this jhana or samadhi, just based on enthusiasm and in terms of energy, But they don't teach mental cultivation and also investigation. But the Buddha actually teaches 4 foundations of psychic power that develops wisdom in tandem with your psychic powers, which means once you develop these psychic powers, you also develop your wisdom. It's not just for showing psychic powers, but you also develop wisdom. That's why the Buddha says that if you develop this 4 bases of psychic power, you're able to become an arahant or even an anagami. You're able to eradicate the 5 high factors and also the and also the 4 lower factors, the 5 lower factors as well. So that is how wonderful this 4 bases of psychic power is. So with this sharing, I just want to share with you, how important we need to actually always refer back to the suttas, and not just listen to what what people might tell you, that, oh, psychic power, that one is actually waste of time, waste of energy, don't bother about that, it's samatha practice, it's not really important, you're wasting your time, you're just going to be born in Brahma world, and after come back, you're still going to be reborn in the woeful plains as an animal, as a beta, and even in hell, but no, you see, the 4 bases of psychic power taught by Buddha is not just samatha alone, there's also vipassana, there's also in terms of mental cultivation, development, and also in terms of investigation. It's not just the samatha by looking at energy and enthusiasm, by just focusing on your breath or looking at your rising, falling, It's not that, this is not the psychic power as taught by the Blessed One, The psychic power taught by the Blessed One has got samatha and vipassana yoked together, with these 4 bases, in terms of enthusiasm, in terms of energy, but you must also cultivate mental development and also in terms of investigation. Investigate how, your mind, and or how everything arises in your mind through causes and conditions, and how your for example, your 5 aggregates arise through causes and conditions, and also how external objects arises through causes and conditions. And that's where you're able to arrive to realize in a profound manner non-self and anatta. From anatta, naturally you're able to realize anicca and dukkha as well. So because of that, you're able to realize the underlying nature of sankhara, and you're able to penetrate the Dhamma. That's how the Dhamma eye arises. You become a Sotapanna, and from there you go step by step from Sotapanna all the way to arahantship. And so this foundation of psychic power is so important, and it actually coupled with what active effort, by looking at the kusala and akusala, wholesome, unwholesome states that arise, how you actually abandon unwholesome, how you fortify and strengthen the wholesome, So you see how wonderful the Buddha Dhamma is, that the Dhamma taught by the Buddha is so wonderful that everything is able to gel together, There's nothing inconsistent, in the Dhamma taught by the Buddha. Everything falls back to the Noble Eightfold Path, everything falls back to the 7 factors of enlightenment, and leading to all the various stages of realization, you're able to realize the Dhamma, and leading to the various stages of sainthood. Everything is so intertwined and so internally consistent that somehow you actually marvel that the Dhamma taught by the Buddha is so remarkable, that if you read the suttas, sometimes you cannot put the sutta down, because every sutta you read, you find something new, and that is so wonderful about reading the sutta, because you will never know what you might just stumble upon. Just like for this Dhamma talk, I actually discovered this after doing the research, that this psychic power itself can be developed nothing by just a Noble Eightfold Path. It's not by some esoteric way that you look at the kasina lah, and just nothing, but just looking at at the, or the samatha object, but here the Buddha teaches, yes, you also develop the light. It means you actually develop the perception of light, to develop this power, you develop the continuously, and also with wisdom, but you also develop it in a way that is consistent with the Noble Eightfold Path, and that's why you're able to, realize the psychic power together with wisdom. That's how this whole Noble Eightfold Path comes into fruition. So I will encourage you, to practice this 4 bases of psychic power, as far as you can, to continue practicing this, slowly and incrementally in baby steps. And for we know, something might just click and the Dhamma eye might just arise and you may become a Satipatthana and, and Anagami and Arhan, who knows, So the Buddha, has given this wonderful path in front of us in the suttas, how you should practice. So now it's up to us to take that effort to walk the path, so that we take heed of what the Buddha has told us, in so many suttas, and try to achieve this to the best of ability, so that we do not live our life as human beings in vain, and we do not, in a way, let the Buddha down, for what the Buddha has given so much of guidance to us in all the suttas, that we must put in our effort, put in the right effort, the enthusiasm, the energy, cultivate your mind, as well as, investigate your mind and body, watch your mind, and how it reacts, the 5 gates, and before you know it, you might just develop the psychic power, and you might just be able to fly, on your next vacation, you might be able to fly instead of having to book expensive air tickets. You can just fly there, and enjoy your vacation. Maybe in a far away country, you can just fly there. If you develop the psychic power. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Ghatikara Loo, for your inspiring Dhamma sharing. Brother Loo, allow me to summarize what we have learned today. We need to put in active effort towards the development of the 4 bases of power, which are concentration, samadhi, active desire, and active effort, virya, and investigative inquiry of our thoughts. Developing wholesome mental states and abandoning unwholesome mental states. We need to continuously cultivate the 4 bases of psychic power as we cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. And finally, so that we can gain liberation of mind and wisdom, putting an end to our sufferings, and finally, so that we can reach the far shore. Is that correct, Brother Loo?
Yes, Sister Lily, spot on. Thank you very much. Thank you for the summary.
Sadhu, sadhu. If anyone's interested to revise today's Dhamma sharing, you can always go to Dhammacakka Buddha Vihara Facebook to do the revision. I'm sure it's very inspiring for every one of us. So, dear brothers and sisters, we have spent almost 1 hour 48 minutes this morning, reflecting on the teachings of the Buddha through the Sunday Pūjā and Dhamma sharing, keeping our thoughts focused and wholesome. As such, our merits accumulated is in abundance and pure. Therefore, let's dedicate the merits accrued to our guardian devas, nagas, and all spirits and beings. May they rejoice in this meritorious action and continue to shower us and our family members with blessings. At the same time, protect every one of us and our family members and friends from all sickness, harms, and dangers. May the devas and all other beings gain wisdom from the hearing of the Dhamma and thus able to gain final liberation soonest. Last but not least, may the merits that we have acquired maybe they will follow the foolish and only the wise until the time we can attain final liberation soonest. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Akasatta cha bummatta deva naga mahitdika punyang tang anumoditwa cirang rakkantu loka sasanang etavata cha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva sabbe bhuta sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. See you everyone next week.